Russian President Vladimir Putin is reportedly ready for potential talks with President-elect Donald Trump on ending the nearly 3-year-long war in Ukraine. Now, during an end-of-year news conference, he claimed that he hasn't spoken to Trump in years and that there are no current plans for a meeting, but if they do talk, he's ready to make compromises to end the war. According to the New York Post, Putin said, "Of course, I'm ready to talk anytime. I'll be ready to meet with him if he wishes." Now, Donald Trump has, of course, promised to lead these peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. He's claimed that he's going to end the conflict on day one back in office. That's obviously going to be quite hard, but it is going to be a top priority for Donald Trump.
Definitely, and I think it should be. Ukraine is an issue that is also dividing the Republican Party, and I think there are a lot of internal tensions around what the approach to foreign policy should be. There are definitely key people like Tulsi Gabbard who are opposed to ongoing involvement in funding of Ukraine, and so I think for Trump, both from an internal Republican Party perspective and just for foreign policy more broadly, Ukraine will be a top priority. I mean, the guiding ideology that the Democrats have operated by under Obama and then Biden was appeasement, essentially. Let's strike a deal with Iran, appease them, let's appease Russia, let's just appease everyone and just play nice, and hopefully the liberal international order will do its thing and we'll all be okay. But what that has done is it has emboldened belligerents around the world, and I think truly the only language dictators understand is strength. It's how they operate. It's what they understand. And Trump, love him or hate him, he has the strength. And his reckless tweets, it all feeds into that sense of strength. And so I think really the only thing Putin will respect is a strong America. And that is what Trump is promising to bring back. If he does that, then I think the prospect of resolving that conflict is a bit higher. However, I wouldn't take anything Putin says seriously because he also loves to lie. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, but it's an interesting point that, world leaders do respond to his strength. We saw in Trump's first term, he met with Kim Jong-un. Like he picked up the phone and actually talks to
I'm not sure if it's so much strength as just unpredictability, and people are just not sure what he's going to do next, what lengths he's actually prepared to go to. He talks up such a crazy game. Like he says,
day one.
If all the hostages aren't back in Gaza, back to Israel by January 20, I'm going to start the biggest war in all of history in the Middle East. And like what on earth that means, who knows? But you can bet your bottom dollar it's making Hamas nervous already. I think there's still a ceasefire that Hezbollah, I believe, is still observing, and that happened just after Trump got in, because again, they know that there is not going to be, as other Western leaders have said, any restraint with Donald Trump. And again, Putin, the biggest casualty of the Ukrainian war has been Putin's ego and Russian pride and prestige. They've been utterly humiliated. Putin has been made, and it used to be thought about Putin that however evil or cruel or unscrupulous he was at least very smart, very calculating, ex-KGB, the whole lot, and that this was a really shrewd operator. And the way that they invaded Ukraine was such an appalling blunder and such an appalling miscalculation. It's actually done the worst thing for Putin, which is to embarrass him, to make him look stupid and to make him look impotent. And so he is desperately looking for a way to get out of this war while saving face. And so you've got this amazing thing with both Trump and Putin, each pretending that it's the other who wants to talk with them. So it's like my grandma used to do this when she wanted a game of tennis. She'd never lower herself to ask anyone for a game of tennis. She would just sit there and it would be deathly quiet. Nobody would be saying anything. She goes, "Well, all right, if you want a game of tennis, I guess I'll have one with you." And no one would have said anything. And then suddenly all the rest of them would go, "Oh, that's great, Ernst. Oh, I was waiting for a game of tennis. Oh, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah." And that's what these world leaders, so they're trying to save face by not looking like it's them that actually wants it. And of course, Putin will come to the table because he desperately needs a way to get out. And Trump offers a kind of reset, an excuse. He says, "Well, I couldn't because Joe Biden was so weak and hopeless or whatever. But Donald Trump has shown that he's prepared to respect my, authority and by talking to me, and therefore we're able to reach an accommodation that's great for Russia and blah, blah, blah. And they'll pick off a few eastern provinces and blah, blah, blah. But that is what is going on there, and I have no doubt that will work. It's classic madman diplomacy.
Well, yeah, I think most of the world obviously wants to see an end to this war. More than 12,000 people have died. And as you say, it was splitting the Republican Party with the amount of spending and the amount of money that was getting sent over to Ukraine. So...
For sure. And I think to pick up on Joe's point there, I think we'll see a similar dynamic in the Middle East as well. I think Iran is absolutely terrified of Trump, and the Abraham Accords, which Trump brought in his last term of government, completely changed the game. There was this idea that the Israel-Palestine problem and peace in the Middle East couldn't be achieved until there was Palestinian statehood.
Right.
But the Abraham Accords shattered all of that by going directly to Arab countries that had an interest in economic liberalization and an interest in containing Iran. They were basically able to circumvent the issue of the Palestinians and make huge progress towards peace in the Middle East. I think that is going to pick up under Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords very soon.
Absolutely.
And I think the credibility that the US lost under Biden is spectacular. The fact that there are still, I believe it's 7 Americans being held hostage in Gaza for over 400 days, and Biden has not lifted a finger to get them back. He should have sent American troops in there the next day to get his Americans back. He should have been working with the Israelis and supporting them in any way he could. Instead, he's completely turned his back on them, probably because it's his woke Democrat advisors actually calling the shots and not him. And I think that is the greatest travesty, because by allowing 7 Americans to rot in tunnels in Gaza for over a year, the US has essentially said to all these terrorist organizations, take our people, we are so weak, we can't do anything about it. And that is not what you want from the leader of the free world.
I don't think a single other president since Jimmy Carter would have allowed that to stand. Reagan would never have done it. Clinton would never have done it. Neither of the Bushes. Obama would never have done it. Trump obviously wouldn't. It is staggering. And again, it's just that somnambulance. And you are absolutely correct. Let's not forget the reason why Hamas, because this is also a Sunni Shiite conflict as well as an Palestinian-Israeli conflict. The reason Hamas launched their terror attack on October 7th is exactly because Saudi Arabia was about to sign a new deal with Israel that would open up relations that already, the Abraham Accords allowed Israeli flights to and from Tel Aviv to fly over Saudi airspace. That was never allowed before. I know that because we weren't allowed to drink over Saudi airspace. It did my head in the middle of the night. But anyway, but yes, and that is absolutely true. And so again, it is just that thing of Trump just being all over the world stage, not even sworn in yet, and people are going, you better play nice.
Sending that tweet, I think it does send such a strong message to Hamas. And when you send something like that, you have to think he's really got a plan. He can't just be sitting there,
No, and again, and I think
he's got a plan.
There were also reports that Iran has held off airstrikes that it was planning after Trump got elected, as well, of course, as the 60-day ceasefire that its proxies Hezbollah signed as well. And of course, Hamas can almost, it doesn't matter what it does apart from hand back the hostages, because it's been completely rubberised. Its leadership has been completely decapitated. But
but we need them back. We need them back urgently. So January 20, getting Trump in the White House, and we'll see how quickly he can sort these world issues out.